So I have a little secret to share with you. I'm pregnant. You may have already guessed. So I have to be honest. Preparing for this TED Talk was a struggle. My commitment wavered, and my heart, it wasn't in it. Now that couldn't be further from the reality. But what if that was someone's perception? Maybe someone in this room, maybe someone watching, that is your perception. What damage is being done when our perceptions don't match the reality? I want to take you back to 2019. It was a fantastic year for my career. I was really developing, impressing, and progressing. I'd found my stride. I loved my job. I worked for a fantastic business, and I could really see where my future was going. I'd been in a meeting with some colleagues. We were preparing for a big project. And as we were finishing up, I decided that would be the moment to tell them my news. So guys, I'd just like to let you know that I'm pregnant. A round of congratulations, pats on the back, nothing out of the ordinary. My colleague Ben got up from his seat and he walked towards the door. He turned to me and he said, "Oh, congratulations, Alex, that's fantastic. I'm just really surprised because I thought you were really career-driven." That comment shattered me. It made me feel immediately vulnerable and incredibly anxious. Although no one else was saying this, were other people feeling this way too? Ben's perception was that because I was pregnant, I wouldn't care about my career. But my reality, I loved my job. I was so excited for my career, and my future would have my career and my family. That was my reality. I'd like to take you to March 2020, when my husband and I welcome our beautiful son Harrison to the world. Exhausted, elated, petrified, but mainly in awe of this incredible human being and everything he would bring to our lives. Becoming a mother has been one of the greatest honors of my life. It's made me more passionate, more patient, and more empathetic. And if you're a parent, you'll understand exactly why. But it's also for all those reasons why becoming a mother has made me a better employee, a better colleague, a better peer. Patience, passion, and empathy are key drivers to success and leadership. And I wanted to be a role model for my son. I wanted to help my family financially. And I wanted to be able to do all the things I knew I was capable of. That was my reality. But when I returned to work after my maternity leave, it was Ben's perception that rang in my head. So what would I do? Well, there was only one thing to do. I had to dig deeper. I had to show everyone my commitment. I would work harder than anyone else. I would love my son so hard that no one could question my commitment. I stepped into this gear, this career mother gear, of giving everything I could to prove that wrong. Like many working mothers, I'm in constant juggle of my two roles. I'll be in a meeting and I'll remember I need to buy nappies. I'll be at the park with my son and I'll be taking a business call. And the constant, and I mean constant, midnight wonderings, can I Amazon that? But this was my answer, right? This was my fight. This was how I was going to prove this perception wrong. Surely no one could question my commitment then. I didn't have to wait long for the reality. I was in the airport with some colleagues. We were heading out to a big overseas event. We were waiting to board the plane and some peers joined us. One of them turned to me and said, "Who's looking after your son?" Now, I have to admit, I replied through slightly gritted teeth that his father was looking after him. And then I waited. I listened. I waited for this individual to ask this question to my male colleagues, many of whom also had children, but they never did. They only ever asked me. Throughout my time as a working mother, I have received hundreds of these comments and questions. Things like, who's looking after your kids when you're at work? And if it's so hard, just quit. And my personal favorite, well, why did you have a career if you wanted to have kids? And we're asking these questions to working mothers, but seldom to working fathers. Why? And what do these questions infer? That women don't care about their careers once they have a family? That women can't have a career and a family? And what's the damage of these perceptions? Well, it manifests in many ways for working mothers. Self-doubt, insecurity, mummy guilt. But at its absolute worst, it manifests into discrimination. In 2015, the Equality and Human Rights Commission found that in the UK, 54,000 women are pushed or removed from their jobs every single year. To put it another way, that is the equivalent of half of the female population of the city of Aberdeen being pushed or removed from their jobs every single year. Now, your perception might be that I'm talking about men. The reality? What if I told you my peer in the airport was a woman? And your perception may also be that it's not you. What if I told you it is you? It's me. It's all of us. We are all capable of unconscious bias, even towards ourselves. I found myself in this situation very recently when a fantastic opportunity came up for me and I hesitated. Not because I didn't want it, not because I thought I couldn't do it, because I was pregnant. My social conditioning had me believe I didn't stand a chance. It took my sisters, my husband, to stand me in front of a mirror and make me see my own unconscious bias towards myself. And I'm glad I did, because I was able to go for that opportunity and I got it. You may also perceive that things are moving, that we're progressing, that equality is capable in our lifetime. The reality, the 2022 Global Gender Gap Report estimates that we'll reach parity on pay in 132 years. So that's equal pay for men and women, 132 years. So what do we know? We know that unconscious bias exists and it's damaging working mothers. We know that working mothers are receiving discrimination in the workplace. And we know that we're capable of letting our perceptions distort the reality. So if that's what we know, what do we do? I believe there's three key things to this. First is awareness. We need to be aware that these unconscious biases exist and the damage they're doing. The second is ownership. We need to own our own unconscious bias. And the third, most importantly, is action. And action comes in many different forms. A great place to start is constructive conversations. Do you remember Ben? You're not going to care about your career, Ben? Yeah, him. Well, I spoke to him 6 months ago. I reminded him of the conversation and how it made me feel and how it's made me feel several times since. Ben had forgotten. It's an innocent comment. He'd meant nothing by it. He had no idea the damage it had done. A really important step is supporting reform. It can't be overstated how important business leaders and governments are in this. And if you're a leader in this room, can I ask you why? Why haven't things changed? Why haven't we progressed further? And if your response is, well, that's the way it's always been, when has that ever been a good enough answer? But most importantly, I'd like action on hope. I wouldn't be standing on this red dot if I didn't genuinely believe that change is possible. I'm not an academic. This isn't my thesis. This is my life. My favorite part of my day is when I get to go home, tuck my son up to bed, and read him a bedtime story. Now, before you suggest it's only partly to do with him going to sleep, we read beautiful stories that apply incredible morals and learnings that even I, as an adult, can appreciate. And I'd like you to do this. Imagine we're reading our kids are reading to their children, and they're telling them this story. What will our ending be? That we lived happily ever after? Well, that's up to us. Thank you.